Tonight, we leave behind the famous Viking raids and step into a quieter world rarely explored. We follow the life of an ordinary Viking river trader around the late 10th century as he journeys through the winding rivers of the Rus. Through mist-covered waterways, peaceful forests, welcoming trading villages, and bustling marketplaces, we experience how trade, not war, helped shape the Viking world. This is a slow, immersive journey designed to relax the mind while revealing the forgotten rhythms of everyday Viking life. Before sunrise at the trading landing. Tonight, dear friend, we travel back more than 1,000 years to a quiet northern river where the day has not yet begun. The stars still linger above the dark water, their pale reflections trembling gently across the slow-moving current. A cool breeze carries the fresh scent of pine, damp earth, and distant marsh grasses. Somewhere deep within the forest, an owl calls one final time before surrendering the night to the coming dawn. For now, the world feels wonderfully still. No shouting, no hurried footsteps, only the soft murmur of the river, patiently flowing as it has for countless generations. Along its wooded bank rests a small trading landing, built from thick oak logs darkened by years of rain, snow, and morning mist. Several sturdy riverboats are tied quietly to weathered wooden posts. Their gently curved hulls rise and fall almost imperceptibly with the breathing rhythm of the water. One of those boats belongs to the man whose peaceful journey we will follow today. He is not a king. He is not a famous explorer. He has never led an army into battle, nor sung songs of heroic victories inside a great hall. Instead, he is something far more common, a Viking river trader. His livelihood depends not upon conquest, but upon patience, honesty, careful observation, and the quiet roads formed by rivers stretching across the northern world. Inside a modest timber house overlooking the landing, a small fire still glows faintly beneath a layer of ash. The warmth left from last night's hearth lingers gently among rough-hewn beams scented with smoke and resin. The trader awakens before the first hint of sunrise, not because anyone has called him, not because an alarm demands his attention. Years of following the river have taught his body when a new day quietly begins. He opens his eyes slowly. For several peaceful moments, he simply listens. The fire settling softly. The faint creak of timber as the cool night air slowly gives way to morning. The distant splash of a fish breaking the river's calm surface. These familiar sounds tell him more about the morning than any clock ever could. Carefully, he rises from his simple wooden bed covered with thick wool blankets and soft reindeer furs. The floor beneath his feet feels cool, reminding him that summer, though warm by northern standards, still greets each dawn with a refreshing chill. He dresses deliberately. First, a clean linen undertunic. Over it, a sturdy wool tunic dyed a gentle shade of muted blue using local plants gathered during previous summers. Around his waist, he fastens a broad leather belt polished smooth through years of daily use. Small leather pouches hang from it. One carries a whetstone. Another holds carefully counted silver coins. A third contains tiny pieces of amber collected during earlier journeys. Each serves a purpose. Nothing is carried merely for decoration. His trousers are woven from durable wool, tucked neatly into thick socks before sturdy leather shoes are laced securely around his ankles. Over his shoulders rests a warm wool cloak, fastened by a simple bronze brooch whose surface has become smooth after many years beneath his fingers. The clothing is practical, comfortable, made to endure changing weather rather than impress strangers. Near the doorway rests a wooden chest reinforced with iron bands. He kneels beside it. Lifting the heavy lid reveals several carefully organized possessions collected over decades of trading. A folded map scratched onto prepared animal hide. Though simple by modern standards, it contains countless memories. Rivers, villages, and familiar bends are marked not by precise measurements but by experience. A carved antler comb, a small wooden cup, extra bootlaces, needles wrapped carefully inside cloth, bundles of waxed thread. Everything has its place. Every object has earned its place through usefulness. He selects only what today's journey requires before closing the chest once more. Outside, the eastern horizon begins to soften. The sky no longer appears completely black. Instead, faint shades of deep blue slowly emerge beyond the distant treetops. The trader steps outdoors. Cool morning air fills his lungs. The scent is wonderfully clean. Pine needles, river water, moist soil, wildflowers hidden somewhere beyond the landing. Tiny beads of dew sparkle upon long grasses surrounding the narrow footpath leading toward the river. Each blade catches the earliest hints of approaching daylight like countless tiny stars scattered across the earth. As he walks downhill, another familiar figure appears. Old Eric. For nearly 30 years, Eric has cared for the landing while younger traders travel farther each season. His beard has turned almost completely white, yet his broad shoulders still carry heavy rope coils with practiced ease. Without speaking, the two men exchange warm smiles. There is little need for many words before sunrise. Their friendship has grown quietly through countless mornings exactly like this one. Eric bends to inspect one of the thick mooring ropes securing the trader's boat. He runs rough fingers across its tightly braided hemp fibers. "Still holding well," he says softly. The trader nods. "I replaced 2 worn sections before spring. A wise habit. The river rewards careful people." Together they continue toward the boat. Mist hangs low above the water, drifting slowly between wooden docks and nearby reeds. It softens every outline, making the opposite bank appear almost dreamlike beneath the fading stars. The trader pauses for a moment. Every morning he does this. Before touching a rope, before greeting cargo, before greeting travelers, he simply watches the river. Its surface is never truly still. Tiny currents weave invisible patterns across the water. Floating leaves quietly reveal subtle movements hidden beneath the surface. Even after decades of traveling these waterways, the river always offers something new to notice. Today, a family of ducks glides silently through the mist. The mother leads confidently, while 6 tiny ducklings struggle to match her graceful pace. The trader smiles. Small moments like these have become treasured companions throughout his life. Many people imagine Viking journeys as constant adventure. But most days begin not with excitement, but with quiet observation. The river teaches patience before it teaches travel. Reaching the boat, he places one hand upon its smooth oak hull. Built by skilled craftsmen from carefully chosen timber, the vessel is neither enormous nor richly decorated. Unlike the famous longships built for distant voyages across stormy seas, this riverboat is designed for calmer waters. Its broad sail allows it to carry the cargo while traveling in depth beneath the surface. It makes it perfect for winding rivers where many travelers often wade beneath shallow water. He walks slowly from bow to stern, checking every facing, every peg, every rope, every plank. A small wooden bucket hangs beside the mast. He lifts it, rolling it carefully to the river before releasing it just for the deck. Water glistens briefly beneath the morning light before running quietly back between the bulwarks. Through
Bundles of animal food across her shoulders. Instead, they work side by side. Someone is running as well. The beekeeper closed the clay jars filled with fragrant carefully prepared flesh pots. An elderly woman with baskets containing beeswax candles. Monsters flying south. One by one, the landing slowly rises. Not with noise. Above them, the sunrise finally touched the tops of the towering pine trees, leaving their highest branches and
loading the wealth of the north. The first golden light of morning slowly spreads across the quiet river, transforming the drifting mist into delicate ribbons of silver and amber. The cool air begins to soften as the sun rises above the endless forest, and every droplet of dew upon the grass sparkles like tiny beads of polished glass. The landing, so peaceful only moments ago, gradually comes alive, not with hurried voices or frantic movement. Instead, the morning unfolds with the calm rhythm that has guided generations of traders who understand that careful preparation is often the most important part of any successful journey. Our trader takes one slow breath before beginning the day's work. A loaded boat must always remain balanced. Every bundle has its proper place. Every crate affects how the boat will rest upon the water. Years of experience have taught him that the river quietly notices every careless mistake. He kneels near the bow, placing a folded sheepskin upon the deck before carefully arranging today's first cargo. Bundles of fine squirrel fur arrive first. Each pelt has already passed through many patient hands. Hunters spent long winter mornings following fresh tracks through deep forests. Families cleaned each skin with remarkable care before stretching them upon wooden frames to dry. Skilled women then sorted every bundle according to color, softness, and quality, until only the finest pieces remained. Now they lie stacked neatly together, surprisingly light despite their great value. Far to the south, these northern furs will warm the shoulders of wealthy merchants, respected officials, and noble families who may never see the forests from which they came. The trader gently presses each bundle into place. No sudden movements, no unnecessary force, only quiet precision. Nearby, another familiar face approaches the landing. It is Ingrid, a widow from a nearby settlement whose family has gathered wild honey for many years. Though her husband passed away several winters before, she continues the work with the same steady hands that once worked beside his. Balanced carefully across a wooden carrying pole rest 4 sealed clay jars. Golden honey glows softly through thin layers of beeswax used to protect each opening. "Good morning," she says warmly. "And a beautiful morning it is," the trader replies. Together they inspect every jar. None have cracked, none have leaked. Satisfied, he wraps each one inside thick woven cloth before placing them near the center of the boat where they will remain safest throughout the journey. Honey is far more than a sweet treat. Throughout the Viking world, it flavors bread, preserves fruit, sweetens warm drinks, and becomes the treasured mead served during celebrations and family gatherings. Even monasteries far away eagerly purchase pure northern honey for both food and medicine. Nothing harvested from hard-working bees is ever wasted. Soon another wagon slowly rolls toward the landing. Its wooden wheels creak gently over the packed earth road while 2 sturdy oxen pull without complaint. Inside the wagon rests another precious cargo. blocks of beeswax. Unlike honey, these pale golden blocks appear almost plain at first glance, yet their value is considerable. Beeswax burns slowly and cleanly. It creates bright candles that produce little smoke. Churches, monasteries, wealthy households, and craftsmen throughout Europe eagerly seek high-quality wax from the northern forests. The trader carefully lifts each heavy block into the boat. The faint fragrance of warm honey still lingers within every piece. It is a comforting smell, sweet, earthy, familiar. By now, the landing has become filled with quiet greetings exchanged between neighbors who have known one another for years. A fisherman arrives carrying bundles of dried river fish tied neatly together with thin cords made from twisted plant fibers. Nearby, two brothers unload smooth pieces of amber collected after recent storms along distant Baltic shores. Morning sunlight passes through the polished stones, causing them to glow with warm shades of golden orange and deep honey. Some pieces still contain tiny ancient fragments of leaves or insects trapped countless ages before human memory. Children often marvel at such treasures. Even experienced traders pause to admire them. Amber is light enough to carry easily, yet beautiful enough to travel astonishing distances. One small polished bead may someday decorate clothing in Constantinople itself. The thought always brings the trader quiet satisfaction. Simple things gathered beside familiar shores can find homes far beyond imagination. Across the landing, the steady sound of woodworking catches his attention. Young Leaf has arrived early again. Barely 17 winters old, he has recently begun learning the trade. His enthusiasm is impossible to miss. He carries freshly carved wooden bowls stacked carefully one inside another. Every surface has been sanded until smooth beneath the fingertips. The bowls are simple, unpainted, unadorned, yet beautifully made. Would these travel well? Leaf asks. The trader turns one slowly in his hands. He studies the grain, the thickness, the balance. Finally he smiles. They'll serve families for many years. The young craftsman cannot hide his pride. Praise from an experienced trader means far more than generous payment. It means his work is worthy of traveling beyond his own village. Nearby, women arrive carrying tightly woven linen cloth folded into neat bundles. Months of spinning flax into thread. Months more spent weaving upon upright looms. Every length of cloth represents countless quiet evenings spent beside warm fires while hands worked patiently through long northern winters. Nothing in this world appears quickly. Nearly everything valuable requires time. The trader often reflects that rivers and skilled craftspeople share something important. Neither can be rushed. As the morning grows brighter, several children gather near the water's edge, fascinated by the steady loading of the boat. They watch every movement with wide, curious eyes. One little boy points toward a bundle of fox pelts. Will those really travel farther than we ever have? The trader kneels beside him. Perhaps much farther? Farther than the sea? He smiles gently. Some may. The child grows wonderfully quiet as he tries to imagine such an enormous journey. His younger sister studies the neatly stacked cargo. So many people helped make one boat full. Her observation surprises even the adults nearby. She is exactly right. This boat carries far more than goods. It carries the work of hunters, beekeepers, farmers, woodcarvers, weavers, fishermen, families. Every bundle tells the story of ordinary people whose careful labor quietly supports communities they may never visit. The trader hopes the children remember that lesson. Wealth is rarely created by one pair of hands alone. A cool breeze ripples gently across the river. The tall reeds sway together. Swallows dart gracefully through the brightening sky.
catching tiny insects that shimmer in the morning light. Somewhere upstream, a beaver splashes into the water with a sudden flap of its broad tail before disappearing beneath the calm surface. Life continues all around the landing, unhurried, peaceful, perfectly ordinary. By the time the sun climbs higher above the pine forest, the boat has begun to resemble a carefully arranged puzzle. Nothing shifts unnecessarily, nothing leans dangerously. Heavy cargo races flow. Fragile goods remain protected. Open spaces allow crew members to move safely while traveling. The trader walks slowly around the deck one final time. His experienced eyes notice details others may overlook. A rope requiring one more careful note. A tree bag with a folded blanket beneath its corner. A loose leather strap waiting to be tightened. His tiny adjustments may seem insignificant today, but after many moves and unwinding levers, every careful decision will quietly reward itself. The river sailors rise to prepare with patience. As he stands upon the wooden deck, the sunlight now reaches the entire landing. The mist is almost completely vanished. Before the last fall, the cargo, a collection of countless ordinary lives, each lovingly crafted, harvested, woven, carved, guided, or prepared by hands who trusted this quiet trader to carry a small piece of the world safely toward distant shores. The trade itself is still waiting to begin.
Following the ancient waterways, the final bundle is secured with a length of braided hemp rope, and for a quiet moment the landing grows still once more. The river seems to pause alongside the boat, as though patiently waiting for everyone to finish their preparations before another gentle journey begins. The trader glances toward the eastern sky. The sun now hangs just above the tallest pines, bathing the world in a warm golden light that reaches across the water like a welcoming path. The morning air remains pleasantly cool, carrying the comforting fragrance of spruce needles, damp moss, fresh timber, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers hidden among the forest's edge. Nearby, old Eric unties the final mooring rope. Its thick fibers slide easily through his weathered hands before falling softly onto the wooden deck. "Safe travels," he says with a quiet smile. "And may the river treat you kindly." The trader inclines his head in gratitude. The river has always been a fair companion. With slow, practiced movements, two crewmen push against the landing poles using long spruce poles polished smooth from years of use. The heavy riverboat drifts gently away from the dock without the slightest hurry. Water curls quietly along the oak hull. Tiny ripples spread across the river before disappearing beneath reflections of the surrounding forest. There is no dramatic departure, no cheering crowd, only the peaceful beginning of another ordinary working day. Several villagers remain standing near the landing long after the boat begins moving downstream. Some raise gentle hands in farewell. Others simply watch until the vessel becomes smaller against the broad river. Journeys like these have become part of the rhythm of life. Someone is always arriving. Someone is always departing. The river quietly connects every farewell with another welcome farther downstream. A light breeze catches the square wool sail. Its woven fabric fills gradually rather than all at once, pulling the boat forward with calm determination. When the wind weakens, the crew easily return to their oars, rowing together in slow, steady strokes that barely disturb the peaceful water. No one rushes. The river itself sets the pace. Soon the landing disappears behind a gentle bend where tall alder trees lean gracefully above the shoreline. Their branches trail low enough to touch the surface, sending small circles of ripples drifting outward whenever a leaf falls into the current. The trader settles comfortably near the stern, one hand resting upon the broad steering oar. His eyes rarely remain fixed in one place for long. Instead, they move quietly across the landscape, the color of the water, the direction of floating reeds, the movement of distant birds, the shadows beneath overhanging branches. Each small observation tells a story. The river speaks constantly. One simply learns how to listen. Along the western bank stretches an endless forest unlike any found in the modern world. Towering Scots pines rise high above carpets of emerald moss, while ancient birch trees shimmer softly whenever the breeze stirs their pale leaves. Between them grow clusters of rowan, hazel, and juniper, filling the woodland with countless shades of green touched by patches of golden morning light. The forest appears peaceful, yet it is wonderfully alive. A red squirrel darts along a fallen pine trunk before vanishing into thick undergrowth. Farther back among the trees, a family of roe deer pauses beside a narrow stream. Their ears twitch at every unfamiliar sound, though they seem unconcerned by the slow-moving trading boat gliding quietly past. Above the canopy, a white-tailed eagle circles upon invisible currents of warm air. Its broad wings hardly move at all. The trader watches it for several moments. His father once told him that rivers and birds often understand the weather long before people do. Even now, many experienced rivermen still glance toward the sky before deciding when to sail. The crew continue rowing in comfortable silence. Each stroke follows the next with almost musical regularity. Wood meets water. Water slips aside. The oars rise again. The rhythm is soothing enough that one could almost believe the river itself is breathing beneath the boat. Not every mile of these waterways is wide and open. Soon the broad river narrows gently between low banks where reeds grow thick enough to hide countless birds. Dragonflies flash brilliant shades of blue and green above the quiet marshes. Their delicate wings sparkle whenever sunlight catches them. A great blue heron stands perfectly motionless in shallow water, so still, in fact, that one of the younger crewmen mistakes it for a weathered tree stump until the enormous bird suddenly spreads its wings and lifts gracefully into the morning sky. Everyone smiles. Nature often rewards those who observe patiently. The trader remembers making the very same mistake many years ago. He had been no older than the youngest crewman aboard today. His first river journey remains wonderfully clear in his memory. He remembers gripping the side of the boat with nervous excitement. Everything had seemed impossibly large. The forests, the sky, the water, even the silence. His own father had stood exactly where he now stands, calmly steering while quietly explaining every bend, current, and landmark along the river. Many of those lessons never required words. Sometimes they simply watched together. That had been enough. The river teaches slowly, but its lessons remain for a lifetime. Around mid-morning, the current becomes noticeably stronger. Small waves gather where two waterways quietly meet. The trader signals gently toward the approaching channel. The crew adjusts their rowing almost without discussion. Years spent working together have created an understanding deeper than conversation. Each man instinctively knows where his strength is most needed. The boat glides safely through the meeting currents. Soon calm water returns once again. Nearby, one of the crew points toward the muddy shoreline. Fresh tracks. Elk. Perhaps only an hour old. Beside them appear much smaller prints. A calf. The trader nods thoughtfully. They crossed early. No wolves? None today. Again, the conversation ends naturally. No one feels compelled to fill every silence. Silence itself has become one of the most trusted companions aboard the boat. As the sun climbs higher,
Patches of warm light dance across the wooden deck through openings in the riverside trees. The smell of fresh-cut pine from the cauldron mingles with beeswax, leather, wool, honey, and river water. It is the unmistakable scent of a trading boat beginning another long voyage. Every fragrance tells its own quiet story. A carved ball, a bundle of fur, a jar of honey, a block of wax. Each object represents patient work completed far behind them. Soon, each will begin a new chapter somewhere farther along the river. The trader often reflects that rivers carry much more than cargo. They carry ideas, friendships, songs, craftsmanship, languages, family traditions, even recipes passed from one village to another. Along with your roads connected distant lands, these waterways quietly stitch together countless communities like threads in a great woven tapestry. The boat rounds another gentle bend. Far ahead, almost hidden beneath glowing haze, a thin ribbon of wood smoke rises peacefully above the trees. The trader smiles softly. The riverside village waits beyond the forest. Another collection of ordinary people living quiet, hard-working lives beside these ancient waters. The journey has only just begun, and already
A village where many worlds meet. The ribbon of smoke grows a little clearer with every gentle bend of the river. At first it seems to drift aimlessly above the treetops, blending with the pale blue sky of late morning. Gradually, however, familiar shapes begin to emerge beneath it. A sloping roof catches the sunlight, then another. Soon the tops of timber buildings appear between clusters of silver birch and towering pines. The trader smiles quietly. He has reached one of the peaceful trading villages that rests along the waterways of the Russ. Long before roads connected distant settlements, villages like this depended upon the rivers. The water served as both highway and marketplace, carrying not only goods but also news, friendships, customs, and ideas from one community to another. The boat glides toward a sturdy wooden landing built from thick oak logs driven deep into the muddy riverbank many years before. Several other vessels are already tied alongside it. Some are narrow fishing boats belonging to local families. Others are broader merchant boats much like his own. Farther downstream rests a larger vessel whose carved dragon-head prow quietly reveals that it has recently arrived from Scandinavia. Its colorful shield rack has been carefully covered with linen cloth, protecting the painted wood from the summer sun. No one aboard appears hurried. Trade rewards patience. As the trader eases the steering oar toward the landing, two young boys waiting on the dock eagerly wave. They cannot be more than 10 winters old. One balances barefoot upon a weathered piling, while the other proudly holds a thick mooring rope almost as large as his own arm. "Ready!" the trader calls warmly. "We're ready!" The boys grin with unmistakable pride. Receiving a boat has become one of their favorite responsibilities. With practiced movements, the crew lowers the sail before using long poles to guide the vessel gently against the landing. Wood meets wood with little more than a quiet bump. The river seems almost reluctant to let the boat stop. One crewman tosses the heavy rope. The older boy catches it on his second attempt, laughing softly while his younger companion quickly loops it around the polished mooring post exactly as his father taught him. "Well done," the trader says. Both boys stand a little taller. Praise from an experienced riverman is something worth remembering. Stepping ashore, the trader pauses for his usual first look around the village. Although modest in size, it feels wonderfully alive. Wooden houses with steep turf-covered roofs line narrow footpaths winding gently between vegetable gardens and small orchards. Chickens scratch patiently beneath woven fences while several goats graze lazily beside patches of wildflowers. Fresh laundry hangs from simple wooden poles, stirring gently in the warm breeze. The scent of baking rye bread drifts through the air. Somewhere nearby, someone has begun smoking fish over alder wood, adding another comforting fragrance to the village morning. A blacksmith's hammer rings softly from a small workshop farther inland. Not loudly, not hurriedly. Each measured strike seems to belong naturally within the peaceful rhythm of the settlement. The trader notices familiar faces almost immediately. An elderly Slavic potter waves from outside his workshop. Beside him stands a Norse carpenter discussing timber with a local builder. A Finnish hunter unloads carefully bundled pelts while a woman wearing finely embroidered linen exchanges cheerful greetings with merchants arriving from farther south. Different languages fill the air, yet remarkably little confusion exists. Smiles, gestures, patience, and years of regular trade have taught everyone how to understand one another. The river has quietly become its own shared language. The trader begins unloading several bundles of carefully wrapped furs. Before long, a broad-shouldered merchant named Mikhail approaches with a welcoming smile. His family has lived beside these waterways for generations. Though their languages differ slightly, years of friendship have made conversation wonderfully easy. "You've brought fine cargo. The forests were generous this season. And the journey? Peaceful." Mikhail nods approvingly. "Those are always the best journeys." Together they begin carrying bundles toward an open-sided trading hall standing near the center of the village. Unlike a permanent market, this timber building serves many purposes throughout the year. Sometimes merchants gather here. Sometimes village meetings are held beneath its roof. During harsh winters, travelers occasionally sleep inside beside carefully tended fires. Today it hums quietly with the steady rhythm of commerce. Nothing feels frantic. No one shouts prices across the room. Trades unfold through calm discussion and mutual trust. Bundles are opened. Quality is examined. Weights are checked using simple balance scales. Silver pieces change hands. Sometimes goods are exchanged directly without any coins at all. A finely carved wooden chest might become payment for beeswax. Several bolts of linen may purchase iron tools. A sack of walnuts could be traded for polished amber. Every agreement depends upon fairness. The trader has learned that an honest reputation travels farther than any boat. While waiting for one bundle of squirrel pelts to be examined, he wanders slowly through the marketplace. Everywhere there are small reminders that this village sits at the meeting point of many worlds. One craftsman shapes delicate bone combs beside his doorway. Nearby, another carefully engraves tiny patterns into silver bracelets that will someday travel hundreds of miles from this very place. Women sit together weaving colorful woolen cloth upon upright looms, while children chase one another carefully between baskets of onions, cabbages, and freshly gathered herbs. A young girl proudly carries a loaf of dark rye bread almost as large as herself. Its warm aroma follows her through the square. The trader cannot help smiling. Some things remain familiar no matter how far one travels. Bread, laughter, the sound of children playing. These belong everywhere. At the edge of the marketplace stands a well built from thick pine logs. Several travelers have paused there to refill leather water skins before continuing their journeys. Among them is a merchant from lands much farther south. His cloak is woven from finer cloth than most worn in the village, and his belt carries small bronze buckles fashioned in a style unfamiliar to many local craftsmen. Yet when offered fresh water, he accepts with the same grateful smile as everyone else. The trader reflects that rivers rarely ask where anyone comes from. They simply carry each traveler onward.
Before them, the church bell of a small wooden chapel rings gently across the village. Its clear notes drift above rooftops before fading into the surrounding forest. Some villagers pause briefly, others continue working. Life flows onward without interruption. The bell simply marks another peaceful hour passing beside the river. As the sun climbs toward midday, more boats begin arriving. A fisherman unloads wicker baskets filled with shining perch. Another trader brings carefully folded wool blankets from northern settlements. Further along the dock, several barrels of salt are rolled carefully ashore, while nearby children watch every movement with endless curiosity. The landing has become wonderfully busy, yet despite the growing activity, calm remains everywhere. There is no rush, no panic, only the steady confidence of people whose lives have long been shaped by the dependable rhythm of the river. Standing once more upon the dock, the trader looks across the gently flowing water. Countless journeys have brought people together here, not to conquer, not to divide, but to exchange, to learn, to help one another. The Viking world, he quietly knows, has always been about far more than the stories of warriors remembered in distant songs. Here, beside this peaceful river, quiet lifted up floats every single day. One built by ordinary hands, earnest trade, quiet friendships, and the timeless current that continues to guide every traveler toward the next welcoming shore.
The quiet marketplace beside the river. By the time the sun climbs a little higher into the clear northern sky, the marketplace has settled into its comfortable midday rhythm. The busiest moments of arrival have already passed. Most boats now rest securely against the timber landing, their ropes tied neatly around polished oak posts darkened by countless seasons of rain and river water. Their hulls rise and fall almost imperceptibly as gentle waves lap against the dock with a soothing, familiar sound. The trader pauses before entering the marketplace once more. He has learned over many years that the middle hours of the day are rarely the loudest. Instead, they are often the most rewarding. Morning is for unloading. Evening is for departure. Midday belongs to conversation. A soft breeze carries together the comforting scents of fresh bread, pine resin, beeswax, smoked trout, and warm timber drying beneath the summer sun. Somewhere nearby, bunches of fresh dill and wild thyme hang outside a doorway, adding another gentle fragrance to the peaceful air. Children's laughter drifts through the square before fading naturally into the steady murmur of friendly voices. Nothing feels hurried. No one appears anxious. The marketplace exists not only to exchange goods, but to exchange lives. The trader walks toward a familiar baker whose small timber oven has become one of his favorite stops whenever he visits this village. Its stone chimney releases a thin ribbon of fragrant smoke into the blue sky. Rows of dark rye loaves cool upon rough wooden shelves outside the doorway. Their crusts crack softly as the warm bread settles in the fresh air. The baker smiles as soon as he recognizes his visitor. "You've arrived just in time. I could smell your bread before I reached the landing." The baker laughs quietly. "My wife says the same thing every morning." He reaches for a freshly baked loaf, wrapping it carefully inside clean linen before placing it into the trader's waiting hands. The bread is still wonderfully warm. Its comforting aroma instantly fills the air between them. The trader thanks him with several small silver pieces before adding a little extra. "For your grandchildren." The baker begins to protest. "You've already paid enough." But they grow quickly. After a brief pause, the baker accepts with a grateful smile. Small kindnesses travel farther than coins. Leaving the bakery, the trader wanders slowly beneath a row of simple wooden market shelters built to protect merchants from summer rain and winter snow. Each stall tells its own quiet story. One elderly woman displays carefully woven wool blankets whose patterns have been passed from mother to daughter for generations. Every thread reflects hours of patient work beside winter fires while snow drifted silently outside. Nearby, a young woodcarver smooths the handle of a newly finished spoon using nothing more than a sharp knife and remarkable patience. Small curls of fresh birch fall gently onto the ground beside his boots. The sweet scent of newly cut wood mingles pleasantly with the smell of warm bread drifting across the square. Farther along, several women arrange baskets overflowing with late summer vegetables. Turnips, onions, leeks, fresh peas, wild mushrooms gathered only yesterday beneath the deep forest canopy. The trader pauses to admire a basket filled with bright red lingonberries. Their color shines brilliantly beneath the afternoon sun. "Good harvest?" "The bushes were generous this year," the woman replies. "The bears found plenty as well." Both laugh softly. In northern forests, everyone understands that berries belong to many hungry mouths. Not far away, an elderly storyteller has gathered several children beneath the shade of a broad oak tree. He does not perform loudly. There is no grand audience. Instead, he speaks quietly enough that listeners naturally lean closer. His weathered hands move gently as he describes an old tale about a clever raven that helped a fisherman find his way home through thick river fog. The children listen with complete attention. Even several adults slow their pace while passing nearby, smiling as familiar memories return. Stories, like rivers, flow from one generation to the next. The trader continues walking until he reaches the edge of the marketplace where craftsmen quietly pursue their trades. The rhythmic tapping of a coopera shaping oak barrel staves blends harmoniously with the steady scraping of a leather worker polishing a newly stitched satchel. Across the lane, a woman spins flax into fine thread while sunlight catches the spinning spindle as it turns effortlessly between practiced fingers. No one competes for attention. Each artisan simply focuses upon doing careful work. The trader often believes that this quiet concentration is one of the greatest treasures found in villages like these. Here, craftsmanship is measured not by speed, but by care. Near the center of the square, a small group of merchants gathers around a sturdy wooden table. Spread across its surface lies an assortment of remarkable objects collected from distant lands. Smooth amber from the Baltic coast, fine linen woven farther south, glass beads shimmering in shades of deep blue and emerald green, small bronze brooches decorated with intricate knotwork, tiny silver coins stamped with unfamiliar rulers whose names few people here could pronounce. The trader studies each item with genuine curiosity. Every object has traveled its own remarkable journey. Some crossed broad seas. Others followed winding rivers through dense forests. Many changed hands dozens of times before arriving here today. Trade is rarely a straight road. It is a web of countless ordinary people helping goods move patiently from one home to another. One merchant notices the trader examining a polished piece of green glass. Beautiful, isn't it? It catches the light like river water. A craftsman in the south made it. The trader turns it carefully between his fingers. The afternoon sun dances inside the smooth surface, creating tiny reflections that shimmer across the table. It has already traveled farther than many people ever will. The merchant nods. So have we. For a moment, both men smile without speaking. Travel teaches humility. The farther one journeys, the more one realizes how many different people quietly shape the world. As the afternoon breeze freshens, the sound of distant church bells drifts once more across the rooftops.
Several white doves resting upon the chapel roof suddenly lift together into the bright blue sky before circling gracefully above the village. Their wings flash brilliantly in the sunlight. Children point upward. Even the merchants pause briefly to watch. Simple moments often become the ones remembered longest. The trader eventually returns toward the riverside carrying only a few modest purchases. Fresh bread, a small pouch of dried herbs, several new carving knives crafted by the village blacksmith. Nothing extravagant, only useful things. He believes useful things have a quiet beauty of their own. As he reaches the landing once again, the river greets him with its familiar gentle murmur. Boats continue rocking peacefully beside the dock. The afternoon light now sparkles across the broad water in countless shifting patterns, each one matching only a heartbeat before giving way to another. The trader rests one hand upon the smooth railing of his boat. On the opposite bank, endless forests stretch toward distant horizons still waiting to be explored. Tomorrow the journey will continue, but today the quiet marketplaces remind him of something he has known for many years. The greatest wealth in such a river is not silver, nor amber. It is not forests. It is the trust of people who greet one another with open hands, honest work, and a peaceful certainty that every short comes with a simple welcome.
A gentle evening along the northern river. By the time the afternoon slowly begins its quiet journey toward evening, the marketplace has grown noticeably calmer. The brightest hours of the day have softened. The sunlight no longer falls directly from above, but stretches gently across the village, painting long golden shadows beneath every timber house, every wooden fence, and every weathered dock that reaches into the peaceful river. The trader has never hurried through this hour. He believes evening arrives not all at once, but little by little. One bird grows quiet. Another begins to sing. The breeze becomes cooler. The river changes color. These small changes are easy to miss for those rushing through life. But for someone who has spent decades traveling northern waterways, they are as familiar as the lines upon his own hands. He unties the leather cord that secures his boat to the landing, not because he plans to leave tonight, but simply to adjust its position as the river level shifts ever so slightly during the day. The thick hemp rope slides comfortably through his calloused fingers. The boat drifts no more than the length of his arm before settling once again against the wooden posts with a gentle bump. Everything feels exactly as it should. Nearby, a young apprentice from the co-op's workshop rolls several newly finished barrels toward a warehouse. Each barrel is bound tightly with iron hoops that gleam softly beneath the evening light. The older co-opper walks beside him without speaking much. Occasionally he places a steady hand upon one barrel, making a slight correction to keep it rolling straight. Teaching often happens without many words. The trader smiles quietly. He remembers learning the same way from his own father many years ago. No long speeches, no endless instructions, only patient example. Across the marketplace, merchants begin covering their goods with woven linen cloths. Bright glass beads disappear beneath fabric. Bundles of wool are stacked neatly inside wooden chests. Clay jars are carried indoors one by one. No one rushes. Everyone knows tomorrow will bring another trading day. There is comfort in work that follows the rhythm of the seasons rather than the clock. A flock of geese suddenly crosses overhead. Their familiar calls echo softly across the valley. The trader lifts his eyes toward the sky. The birds travel together in a graceful formation, each taking its turn at the front before quietly allowing another to lead. Nature rarely wastes effort. Even birds understand the value of sharing the journey. Near the shoreline, fishermen pull in their final nets of the day. The catch is modest, several silver perch, a few pike, nothing extraordinary. Yet each fish will provide food for families gathered around warm evening tables. One fisherman raises a hand in greeting. The trader returns the gesture. Words are unnecessary between neighbors who have crossed paths through many seasons. The river itself has become their shared language. As the air cools further, cooking fires begin appearing throughout the village. Thin ribbons of pale smoke rise lazily into the still evening sky before slowly disappearing among drifting clouds. The scent of roasted onions, fresh bread, smoked fish, and simmering herbs spreads gently through the streets. Somewhere nearby, someone has begun preparing cabbage stew. Elsewhere, apples roast beside glowing embers. Simple meals, honest meals. Meals earned through steady hands and patient labor. The trader reaches into a small wooden chest aboard his boat and removes a carefully folded wool blanket. It belonged to his mother. Though many winters have passed since she stitched its edges by hand, the wool remains remarkably warm. He drapes it across the bench inside the boat where he often sits after sunset. Some possessions grow more valuable not because they become newer, but because they carry the quiet presence of those who once held them. A pair of swans glides slowly across the river. Their reflections remain almost perfectly unbroken upon the still water. For several peaceful moments, it becomes impossible to tell where the birds end and their reflections begin. The trader has watched swans upon these rivers since childhood. They always remind him that grace requires no audience. No one applauds them. They simply move beautifully because it is their nature. Children laugh somewhere behind the marketplace. Several families have gathered near the grassy riverbank while younger boys toss smooth stones toward the water, counting each bounce with great excitement. A little girl proudly presents her father with a handful of tiny wildflowers gathered beside the path. He kneels to admire them as though they were the rarest treasures in all the north. Perhaps they are. The trader knows that memories are often built from moments exactly like these. Not grand victories, not famous journeys, only ordinary evenings shared with people we love. As the sun begins sinking lower, its golden light transforms the river into a broad ribbon of copper. Every ripple catches fire for an instant before fading back into gentle blue. The forests along the opposite shore become darker now, their tall pines standing like silent guardians watching over the ancient waterway. A soft wind stirs the reeds along the shoreline. Dragonflies that danced endlessly beneath the afternoon sun gradually disappear into the tall grasses. Instead, delicate moths begin emerging from shaded places, fluttering quietly through the cooling air. The world changes, shifts almost unnoticed. Day gently offers its place to evening. A village bell rings once, not loudly, not urgently, simply as a quiet reminder that another peaceful day is drawing toward its close. The trader closes his eyes for a brief moment. He listens. The gentle creaking of boats, the whisper of wind through birch leaves, the distant laughter of children, the rhythmic splash of water against weathered oak. No king could command music more comforting than this. When he opens his eyes once more, the first hints of amber light have begun touching the western horizon. Soon supper will be shared. Stories will be told beside warm fires. Tomorrow's journey will wait patiently for another sunrise. For now, there is nowhere else he wishes to be. Only here, beside this quiet northern river, watching another ordinary day settle gently into evening, just as countless generations have done before him, and as countless generations, he hopes, will continue to do long after his own boat has made its final peaceful crossing. A gentle evening along the northern river. By the time the afternoon slowly begins its quiet journey toward evening, The marketplace has grown noticeably calmer. The brightest hours of the day have softened. The sunlight no longer falls directly from above, but stretches gently across the village, painting long golden shadows beneath every timber house, every wooden fence, and every weathered dock that reaches into the peaceful river. The trader has never hurried through this hour. He believes evening arrives not all at once, but little by little. One bird grows quiet. Another begins to sing. The breeze becomes cooler. The river changes color. These small changes are easy to miss for those rushing through life. But for someone who has spent decades traveling northern waterways, they are as familiar as the lines upon his own hands. He unties the leather cord that secures his boat to the landing, not because he plans to leave tonight, but simply to adjust its position as the river level shifts ever so slightly during the day. The thick hemp rope slides comfortably through his calloused fingers. The boat drifts no more than the length of his arm before settling once again against the wooden posts with a gentle bump. Everything feels exactly as it should. Nearby, a young apprentice from the cooperator's workshop rolls several newly finished barrels toward a warehouse. Each barrel is bound tightly with iron hoops that gleam softly beneath the evening light. The older cooperator walks beside him without speaking much. Occasionally he places a steady hand upon one barrel, making a slight correction to keep it rolling straight. Teaching often happens without many words. The trader smiles quietly. He remembers learning the same way from his own father many years ago. No long speeches. No endless instructions, only patient example. Across the marketplace, merchants begin covering their goods with woven linen cloths. Bright glass beads disappear beneath fabric. Bundles of wool are stacked neatly inside wooden chests. Clay jars are carried indoors one by one. No one rushes. Everyone knows tomorrow will bring another trading day. There is comfort in work that follows the rhythm of the seasons rather than the clock. A flock of geese suddenly crosses overhead. Their familiar calls echo softly across the valley. The trader lifts his eyes toward the sky. The birds travel together in a graceful formation, each taking its turn at the front before quietly allowing another to lead. Nature rarely wastes effort. Even birds understand the value of sharing the journey. Near the shoreline, fishermen pull in their final nets of the day. The catch is modest, several silver perch, a few pike. Nothing extraordinary. Yet each fish will provide food for families gathered around warm evening tables. One fisherman raises a hand in greeting. The trader returns the gesture. Words are unnecessary between neighbors who have crossed paths through many seasons. The river itself has become their shared language. As the air cools further, cooking fires begin appearing throughout the village. Thin ribbons of pale smoke rise lazily into the still evening sky before slowly disappearing among drifting clouds. The scent of roasted onions, fresh bread, smoked fish, and simmering herbs spreads gently through the streets. Somewhere nearby, someone has begun preparing cabbage stew. Elsewhere, apples roast beside glowing embers. Simple meals, honest meals, meals earned through steady hands and patient labor. The trader reaches into a small wooden chest aboard his boat and removes a carefully folded wool blanket. It belonged to his mother. Though many winters have passed since she stitched its edges by hand, the wool remains remarkably warm. He drapes it across the bench inside the boat where he often sits after sunset. Some possessions grow more valuable, not because they become newer, but because they carry the quiet presence of those who once held them. A pair of swans glides slowly across the river. Their reflections remain almost perfectly unbroken upon the still water. For several peaceful moments, it becomes impossible to tell where the birds end and their reflections begin. The trader has watched swans upon these rivers since childhood. They always remind him that grace requires no audience. No one applauds them. They simply move beautifully because it is their nature. Children laugh somewhere behind the marketplace. Several families have gathered near the grassy riverbank while younger boys toss smooth stones toward the water, counting each bounce with great excitement. A little girl proudly presents her father with a handful of tiny wildflowers gathered beside the path. He kneels to admire them as though they were the rarest treasures in all the north. Perhaps they are. The trader knows that memories are often built for moments exactly like these. Not grand victories, not famous journeys, only ordinary evenings shared with people we love. As the sun begins sinking lower, its golden light transforms the river into a broad ribbon of copper. Every ripple catches fire for an instant before fading back into gentle blue. The forests along the opposite shore become darker now, their tall pines standing like silent guardians watching over the ancient waterway. A soft wind stirs the reeds along the shoreline. Dragonflies that danced endlessly beneath the afternoon sun gradually disappear into the tall grasses. Instead, delicate moths begin emerging from shaded places, fluttering quietly through the cooling air. The world changes, shifts almost unnoticed. Day gently offers its place to evening. A village bell rings once. Not loudly, not urgently, simply as a quiet reminder that another peaceful day is drawing toward its close. The trader closes his eyes for a brief moment. He listens. The gentle creaking of boats, the whisper of wind through birch leaves, the distant laughter of children, the rhythmic splash of water against weathered oak. No king could command music more comforting than this. An evening gathering around the hearth. The last light of day lingers gently upon the northern horizon. The sun has slipped behind the distant pine forests, yet the sky still glows with soft shades of amber, rose, and pale lavender. Their colors spread peacefully across the broad river until the water itself seems to shine from within. The trader remains at the landing for a few quiet moments. He has always believed that sunset deserves patience. It is never the same twice. Each evening paints its own farewell. Around him, the village settles into its familiar nighttime rhythm. Market stalls now stand empty beneath neatly folded canvas covers. The cooperator's workshop has fallen silent. The blacksmith's forge, so lively only hours before, now holds nothing more than glowing embers beneath a blanket of fine gray ash. The ringing of hammers has given way to birdsong. Soon even the birds grow quiet. Only the gentle murmur of the river continues without interruption. The trader lifts his small canvas satchel over one shoulder and begins walking along the narrow path leading away from the dock. Smooth river stones crunch softly beneath his worn leather boots. The evening air feels cooler now. It carries the clean scent of flowing water mixed with pine needles, dark earth, and wood smoke drifting from dozens of chimneys across the village. Warm light begins appearing behind small glass windows. Each window tells the same comforting story. Families returning home, simple suppers being prepared, children washing dusty hands before gathering around wooden tables. He passes a modest cottage where an elderly woman waters a small herb garden growing beside her doorway. Handles of sage, chamomile, and mint sway gently in the evening breeze. She notices the trader and smiles warmly. Over joy, a peaceful one, a best calm. She nods in quiet ground. After a successful journey with excitement, she takes a running blessing notes. Farther along the lane, several young days couples, freshly split firewood beside their family shed. Their father calmly inspects each pile before meditating measured. No celebration follows, only quiet satisfaction. Good work speaks
where it fell. Nearby, a great creature brushes her pony beneath the shade of an old birch tree. The animal gazes its head contentedly, enjoying the peaceful escape. The tighter place is horses caught heavy burdens across muddy roads. You see rocks which overflow storms. Gentleness, he believes, is one of the finest rewards of faithful streets. As he reaches the center of the village, the cattle bellows softly, and out as a warning. Celebration, it's deep and peaceful, stretching across the roof tanks before fading into the forest beyond. Fellow villagers pause where they stand, so bow their heads briefly, and they simply stand before the door. Each one uses for a quiet moment of reflection. The bowels mark the passing of evening so longer than anyone alive can remember. It is welcome for newborn children. It is welcome to lucky neighbors. It is celebrated weddings. It is comforted grieving families. Food arrives at the small timber house of an old friend named Anders. The already stands silent. Wood firelight flickers inside. Anders appears with a broad smile. I thought I recognized your boat this afternoon, and I thought I smelled your white steam from halfway across the river. Softly, some footsteps leave no ceremony. Inside, the house glows with quiet warmth. A sturdy stone fireplace crackles gently beneath an iron curtain pot suspended over glowing coals. The winter rain of slow cookers. Air fills every corner of the room. Carrots, leeks, pie, fresh herbs, small pieces of sweet medicine. Nothing elaborate, everything nourishing. Anders offers the food of his new family. She slices thick portions of fresh rye bread before placing them in a woven basket. Nearby, a cup of creamy bitter roots beside a small bowl of coarse sea salt. The child offers the breakfast earlier to the village welcome. And yet, she smiles gratefully, and smiles graciously everywhere. Soon, everyone around the board at the table. No one rushes from you. Conversation flows as quickly as the river outside. Listens about the recent berry harvest, about migrating birds arriving slightly earlier than usual, about a bridge being repaired several villages downstream, about a newborn calf born only yesterday. Fall stories, ordinary theories. Thinking deeply the life are connected. One baby thinker, and his youngest son disappears in the corner of the room before it moves a small wooden flute. Melissa takes shyly, his mother smiles encouragingly. Go on. The boy raises his flute carefully to his lips. The melody is simple, gentle, and with the lead humming melody. All its applause and finishes. Instead, the father reaches over and gently squeezes his shoulder. Yesterday, the boy beams, raises his pacings, after supper, the dishes are washed together without discussion, each person cashing things for the man. One wants wooden bowls, another brass stools. Someone carries fresh water from the well. The youngest children carefully stack neat things inside the cupboard. Green beans make light work. Swimming chairs are furnished. Fireflies burn. A few minutes of shadows cross the table walls. Inside, the first quiet spot. Everyone lonely as the dark sea washes the falling pine trees. The tree sits tall above the small porch. Everyone reflects the night softly in polished glass. Someone's pushing water and almost suffocating the forest. Another answers in the distance. The cool evening breeze brushes gently across his face. Tomorrow, you won't feel this journey. faces. Focus on how your mind continues to navigate into waterways year after year. Not for not for adventure, but because every peaceful village and every welcoming path, every story has another kind of thread to weave the tapestry of waterways that separate the cultures. No threads forge their home of the roof of golden stars. Simply rest peacefully.
Dawn mist and the first travelers. Long before the village awakens, the northern river is already quietly alive. The world rests beneath a gentle blanket of silver mist that drifts low across the water, softening every shoreline and hiding the distant forests beyond a veil of pale gray. The air is cool enough that each careful breath carries the fresh scent of pine, damp earth, and clear river water untouched by the coming day. The trader opens his eyes before the first bird begins to sing. He has followed this rhythm for so many years that no clock is needed. The river itself has become his morning companion. For a few peaceful moments, he remains beneath his wool blanket, listening. Water laps gently against the oak hull. A mooring rope creaks softly where it wraps around the weathered dock post. Somewhere hidden within the mist, a lone owl offers one final call before surrendering the forest to the approaching dawn. Night is slowly stepping aside. Morning has not yet fully arrived. The trader rises quietly, careful not to disturb the remarkable stillness surrounding him. The deck feels cool beneath his boots, still carrying tiny drops of dew gathered during the night. Every railing, every coil of hemp rope, every wooden oar glistens faintly beneath the dim morning light. He fills a small iron kettle with fresh river water gathered from a clear current beside the landing. Soon a modest cooking fire crackles inside a sheltered clay brazier placed safely upon a bed of flat stones aboard the boat. Thin ribbons of smoke rise lazily into the cool air before disappearing into the mist. Breakfast is as simple as it has always been. A slice of yesterday's rye bread, a small piece of smoked cheese, a handful of dried berries gathered during late summer, and warm herbal tea brewed from mint and chamomile carefully wrapped inside a linen pouch. There is no hurry. The first travelers rarely arrive before sunrise. The trader eats slowly while watching the eastern horizon brighten little by little. The sky changes almost unnoticed. Gray becomes pale blue. Blue becomes soft gold. The mist begins lifting from the river like a great white curtain rising before a peaceful performance. First, the tops of the pine trees appear, then the distant shoreline. Finally, the broad river reveals itself once more, calm and welcoming beneath the awakening sky. As if waiting for this very moment, the birds begin their morning chorus. Blackbirds whistle from alder branches near the water. Thrushes answer from deeper within the forest. A family of ducks glides silently across the quiet current, leaving delicate V-shaped ripples that shimmer in the growing sunlight. The trader smiles. Every dawn offers the same music, yet somehow it always feels new. Soon footsteps echo softly along the wooden dock. The first traveler of the morning approaches. An elderly shepherd walks beside a small flock of woolly sheep moving patiently along the riverside path. A faithful sheepdog circles quietly around the flock, guiding every animal with calm confidence rather than loud commands. The shepherd removes his cap. "Good morning." "And to you. Looks like another fine day." "The river certainly thinks so." Both men glance toward the water. Its surface remains wonderfully smooth. Not a breath of wind disturbs it. The crossing is peaceful. The sheep step aboard one by one with surprising confidence, as though they have made this journey many times before. The dog waits until every last animal has boarded before quietly joining them. Only then does the trader untie the mooring rope. The boat drifts gently away from the landing. Morning sunlight now reaches across the river in long golden bands that dance upon the water with every tiny ripple. The mist continues dissolving behind them, revealing fields covered with sparkling dew. Spiderwebs stretched between tall grasses glitter like delicate silver lace. The shepherd leans comfortably against the railing. My grandson asked me yesterday if the river ever grows tired. The trader chuckles softly. And what did you tell him? I said rivers don't become tired. They simply keep going. The trader nods thoughtfully. A wise answer. For a while, neither man speaks. Silence feels perfectly natural here. The steady splash of the oars provides all the conversation either truly needs. Halfway across, the shepherd points toward the eastern sky. A line of cranes flies gracefully overhead, their long wings moving with slow, powerful rhythm. They're heading south early. So they are. Winter may arrive sooner this year. Perhaps it will. People who live close to nature often notice such quiet signs long before calendars suggest changing seasons. The boat reaches the opposite bank with hardly a sound. The shepherd thanks the trader warmly before leading his flock toward broad meadows waiting beyond the trees. The faithful sheepdog pauses for just a moment. Looking back toward the river, it gives a gentle wag of its tail before following its master up the winding path. Soon the landing grows peaceful once again, only for a little while. In the distance, another figure has already appeared upon the forest road. This time it is a young woman carrying two carefully balanced baskets filled with fresh cream, butter, and soft cheeses wrapped neatly inside clean linen cloths. Behind her walks her teenage brother pulling a small wooden cart loaded with clay pots destined for the next village downstream. The day is only beginning. Already, ordinary lives are quietly weaving together once more. The trader reaches once again for the familiar hemp rope. His hands know every knot without needing to think. His boat knows every gentle current. The river knows every bend. And as the golden morning sun climbs steadily above the northern forests, another peaceful day of honest work begins upon the ancient waterway, one quiet crossing at a time. The trader watches until the shepherd and his flock disappear beyond a gentle rise where the narrow path bends into the forest. Soon they are hidden completely. Only the faint ringing of a small bronze bell tied around the neck of the lead ewe lingers softly in the cool morning air before fading into silence. He always enjoys these quiet moments between crossings. The river seems to pause and take a slow breath of its own. No voices drift across the water. No wagons rumble over the landing. Even the breeze appears content to rest among the reeds lining the shore. Sunlight continues climbing higher above the eastern treetops. The first golden rays reach the tops of the towering pines before gradually spilling downward across the riverbank. Tiny droplets of dew sparkle upon every blade of grass. Each one catches the morning light like a miniature crystal before quietly disappearing beneath the growing warmth of the day. A pair of kingfishers suddenly dart across the water. Their brilliant blue feathers flash for only an instant before they vanish into the overhanging willow branches farther downstream. The trader has always admired their remarkable speed. Unlike larger birds that circle patiently overhead, kingfishers seem to trust entirely in quickness and precision. Each creature survives in its own way. The river makes room for all of them. He reaches beneath one of the benches and removes a small bundle of oiled cloth. Inside rests a whetstone that has traveled with him for nearly 20 years. Its edges have grown smooth from constant use. Sitting comfortably near the barrel, he begins sharpening the small utility knife he carries every day. The blade is not a weapon. It serves countless useful purposes. Cutting rope, repairing leather straps, carving wooden pegs,
preparing meals, opening tightly wrapped bundles of cloth. His father often reminded him that welcome calls require careful attention. But daily creates the say, the steady scraping of steel across stone blends never. Gentle sound of the river. Slow, even, patient. No movement is wasted. Nearby, an elderly fisherman prepares his own small skin for the morning. He rows quietly past the landing, lifting one weathered hand and greeting. The gesture with a moving smile. He interrupts the peaceful silence with an unnecessary conversation. After many years beside the fire, friendship often grows stronger rather than constant words. Far down, the morning skies become dark. The last traces of mist have disappeared completely. White clouds drift away slowly. The reflections stretching across the broad river before breaking suddenly. The water mirrors the heavens so perfectly that it almost becomes impossible to tell what the sky is alive on the earth. A gentle breeze from the waves. It is hardly more than a whisper, yet it carries the sweet scent of burning life from distant meadows beyond the forest. Mixed with the familiar fragrance of fresh hunting, somewhere within the village. Life is moving one small task at a time. The trader stands and slowly works the length of his boat, making one final inspection before the morning grows busier. In such disastrous requiring several hours of learning. Each one craves firm. The walls are soft and smooth, with a drive and inflated canvas. The crate filled with carefully carved wooden bowls has not shifted during the night. Everything rests exactly where it should. Experience is taking a peaceful transport. Reach the shore. Careful preparation is often the quiet secret behind an uneventful voyage. From far up the road comes the cheerful sound of wagon wheels rolling across the acres. A young woman carrying baskets of fresh produce has nearly reached the landing now. A dedicated person is began to address the small wooden cart following behind him. You're still young. You need to complain. Instead, he concentrates every day part forth along the uneven path. The trader notices this with quiet admiration. Responsibility often begins with simple tasks faithfully completed. As the brother reaches the dock, one wheel catches still. The cart tilts ever so slightly. Without hesitation, the trader steps forward and steadies the wooden frame before reaching the carry himself. He says with an easy sigh. The young boy retires a relieved breath. Thank you. Together they guide the cart safely aboard. The young woman carefully places the wooden baskets beneath the shaded section of the boat where the coal water now helped with the fresh water from morning. Everything has its proper place. Even the smallest details matter when trying to preserve the relevance. Sharing through the questions of life, a note blessings to all the knowledge. The fragile fruit of the wood veins slips out carefully and then the hunting was an elderly overview of the faces of the colors of lavender, yarrow, nettles, chamomile, a fragrant pine resin gathered from the surrounding forest. After the dawn, looking into the evening, comfort, these two are forms of trade. The trader requests the same quiet respect. The weed is not flattered or closeted. Merchant or shepherd, child or elder, follows the only very few for profit. As the final loading rope slips free from the weather outpost, the Broad River once again welcomes the sturdy Scandinavian travel current. Moments further out, the sun grows warmly above the unfamiliar forests, and ties another peaceful striking anchor. Whereas the bend in the river promises another village, another familiar brand, and another quiet chapter in the long, story of a Viking river trader's life.
The long journey home beneath the autumn sky. By late morning, the trader's boat has left the familiar village far behind. The quiet marketplace has disappeared beyond the gentle curves of the river, hidden now by dense forests of towering pine and silver birch. Only the memory of friendly voices, warm bread, and welcoming smiles remains, carried with him as faithfully as the cargo secured beneath the waxed canvas. The river widens once again. Here, the current moves with calm confidence, broad enough to reflect the endless northern sky in almost perfect detail. Soft white clouds drift lazily overhead, their mirrored shapes gliding silently across the water before breaking apart beneath the gentle wake of the boat. The trader has entered one of his favorite stretches of the journey. There are no villages nearby, no busy landings, no crowded marketplaces, only the river, the forests, and time itself moving at its own unhurried pace. He loosens the square wool sail just enough to catch the steady breeze flowing from the north. The canvas fills gradually, never snapping or straining, but unfolding like a bird stretching its wings after a peaceful night's rest. Immediately, the boat begins gliding with even less effort. The oars rest quietly inside their polished wooden locks. Today, the wind has kindly offered its assistance. The trader smiles to himself. A wise traveler accepts help wherever nature freely gives it. The riverbank slowly unfolds beside him like the pages of a well-loved story. Clusters of golden reeds sway gently where the water meets the shore. Tall birch trees shimmer with leaves already beginning to turn pale yellow, while scattered rowan trees display brilliant bunches of scarlet berries that glow against the deep green forest. Autumn is arriving quietly, not with sudden change, but through hundreds of small reminders. A cooler breeze, longer shadows, morning mist lingering just a little later than before. The trader notices them all. He always has. High overhead, a great eagle circles effortlessly upon rising currents of warm air. Its broad wings scarcely move. Instead, it allows the invisible wind to carry it higher with patient confidence. The trader watches until the bird disappears beyond a distant ridge. There is something deeply peaceful about creatures that understand there is no need to hurry. As midday approaches, he guides the boat toward a narrow gravel bank where a clear spring flows into the river beneath a cluster of ancient alders. He has stopped here many times over the years. The place has never changed. The spring still bubbles quietly from beneath smooth stones covered with emerald moss. Wild mint continues growing along its edges, releasing a fresh fragrance whenever touched by the breeze. Even the same weathered oak log still rests beside the water, polished smooth by generations of passing travelers. The trader secures the boat with a single hemp rope before stepping ashore. The ground feels wonderfully soft beneath his boots. A carpet of fallen pine needles cushions every step, filling the forest with their rich, earthy scent. Nearby, sunlight filters through the branches in long golden beams, dancing gently across patches of ferns and clusters of tiny woodland flowers that somehow continue blooming despite the changing season. He kneels beside the spring and fills his wooden flask. The water is astonishingly clear, cold enough to numb his fingertips. He takes a slow drink. It is fresh, clean, and wonderfully refreshing. No drink crafted by kings could taste finer than water gathered directly from the living earth. Before returning to the boat, he notices fresh deer tracks pressed gently into the damp soil beside the stream. A mother deer and a smaller fawn. The prints are still sharp. Perhaps they visited only an hour before. He smiles softly. The forest is full of lives quietly unfolding beyond human sight. Not every story needs an audience. Back aboard the boat, he unwraps a modest midday meal. The final slices of rye bread purchased from the village bakery. A small piece of smoked trout traded from a fisherman several days earlier. Fresh butter carefully wrapped inside cool linen, and a handful of sweet hazelnuts gathered during yesterday's walk along the woodland path. Simple food has always tasted best beside open water. He eats slowly, allowing the peaceful silence to accompany every bite. Only the gentle trickle of the spring and the whisper of wind through pine branches disturb the stillness. When the meal is finished, not a single crumb is left behind. He brushes the wooden board clean and stores everything neatly inside its proper place. The forest has shared its beauty generously. The least he can do is leave it exactly as he found it. Soon the journey begins once again. The breeze remains steady. The sail fills gracefully. The boat glides back into the broad current as though it has never stopped. Far downstream, the river bends gently toward another valley waiting beyond the forested hills. Perhaps another village lies there. Perhaps only quiet wilderness. The trader feels no urgency to know. Discovery has always been one of the quiet pleasures of river life. Every bend offers possibility. Every horizon invites gentle curiosity. As the afternoon sun climbs higher above the northern landscape, its warm light scatters across the rippling water in thousands of tiny flashes that resemble polished silver. The boat continues forward with calm determination. Not racing, not wandering. Simply following the ancient course carved by the river through countless generations. The trader rests one steady hand upon the smooth wooden tiller. Behind him, peaceful villages slowly become memories. Ahead, new friendships patiently wait beyond the next bend. And above it all, the wide Scandinavian sky watches over another ordinary day. A day filled not with grand adventures or heroic deeds, but with honest work, quiet beauty, and the timeless comfort of a life lived one gentle mile upon the river at a time. The river carries the trader onward with the same quiet patience it has shown every traveler for countless generations. The current is gentle here, not so slow that the boat stands still, not so swift that it demands constant attention. Instead, it moves with a calm certainty, as though it already knows every bend, every hidden shoal, and every peaceful landing that lies ahead. The trader has often thought that rivers possess a kind of memory, not the memory of words or names, but the memory of seasons. Each spring they welcome the melting snows from distant mountains. Each summer they reflect endless blue skies. Each autumn they carry drifting leaves toward the sea. Each winter they rest beneath quiet sheets of ice. Year after year, always changing, yet somehow always remaining the same. A light breeze ripples across the surface, carrying with it the sweet fragrance of fallen leaves warming beneath the afternoon sun. Golden birch leaves tumble gently from the branches overhead. Some settle upon the deck of the boat. Others drift lazily over the river, spinning slowly before joining the endless journey downstream. The trader stoops to pick up one particularly beautiful leaf. Its edges glow with rich shades of amber and gold. Holding it carefully between his fingers, he studies the delicate veins running through its surface. Nature creates remarkable beauty without ever repeating
repeating the same design twice. He lays the leaf gently upon the water. The color accepts it immediately. It floats beside the boat like a quiet traveling companion before slowly drifting nearer in the next bend. The afternoon grows wonderfully peaceful. Clouds pass over almost unnoticeable place. The shadows drift silently across the forest, briefly clean the bright patches of sunlight before moving on outside. Several birds were preparing for the coming winter. Freshly cut branches line the thick beside a sturdy lodge built among the reeds. One beaver appears briefly, carrying another willow branch almost as long as its main body. Disappears beneath the still water. The trader smiles. Preparation has always been one of nature's greatest efforts. The creature waits until nature arrives before beginning its work. A little farther downstream, he notices a strand of ancient oak trees stretching toward the river. Their branches spread wide across the shoreline, creating a cool countless travelers who undoubtedly rested over the years. The exposed roots pushed gracefully into the water, by centuries of changing currents. He remembers stopping beneath these same trees in his father many years before. In the moonlight, curious boyhood, his father had pointed toward the towering oak. Strong trees grow slowly. At the time, the words had seemed simple. Later did the trader understand that they were never really about trees. Character, like an ancient oak, is built on a quiet seasonal time. In the ice days with animals, the boat glides past the familiar shoreline. Ahead, the river moves slowly before the hillside the entire landscape seems closed out, shades of gold, and deep evergreen. Sunlight filters through the changing leaves, scattering moving patterns across the calm water. It's impossible not to stop out. What was the river demands it? It is beyond the flash of unheard attention. A playground of senior classes alike. They tumble playfully through the shallow water before disappearing beneath the surface. The trader starts through the patches of yellow leaves. The trader laughs quietly. The joyful energy reminds him that even the wildest creatures make time for play. The northern forests had always understood the birds between labor and rest. As afternoon gradually stretches toward evening, the air grows cooler once again. The trader reaches for his thick low cloak, satisfies the middle branch crouched across his shoulder. The comforting weight settles naturally against him. Many winters have passed since the cloak was weighty. Its edges have been repaired more than once. Yet every canvas stick falls another chapter of its long life. Some things break from the shadows simply because they grow older. In the distance, smoke begins rising above the treetops. Night thickens up. All thin blue ribbons drifting peacefully into the clear overflow. Somewhere beyond the next bend, another riverside settlement is preparing its evening meal. Families will soon gather around the old hearths. Fresh bread will come from stone ovens. Children will return from fields and forests. Stories will once again be shared beneath flickering firelight. The trader feels an urge to hurry toward them. They will soon be roaming around. Yet, perhaps, it's one of the river's greatest gifts. The beautiful life does not become richer by moving faster. It becomes richer by moving slower. He rests both hands lightly upon the smooth wooden table. Continues its slow course beneath the glowing autumn sky. Around him, the ancient river flows as though it was like a silent call. And no one sleeping fighting camel sinking farther and deeper 60 feet.
The final crossing before home. The afternoon has slowly begun its gentle descent toward evening once again. The bright golden light that danced across the river only a short while ago now grows softer with every passing moment. Long shadows stretch from the towering pines across the quiet water, while the autumn sky begins exchanging its brilliant blue for warmer shades of amber and pale rose. The trader knows this part of the river well. Every bend, every gravel bank, every cluster of ancient oaks leaning over the shoreline. After so many years upon these waters, the landscape no longer feels like a place he merely visits. It feels like an old friend quietly welcoming him home. The breeze that has carried his boat throughout much of the afternoon begins to settle. The square wool sail loses its gentle curve, fluttering softly before hanging almost still. Without hurry, the trader rises from the stern. His movements are slow, practiced, and wonderfully familiar. He loosens the braided hemp lines. The sail descends gracefully into his waiting hands. There is no rush, no wasted motion. Each fold is made carefully before the heavy canvas is secured neatly beneath leather straps. His father always insisted that a sailor's respect for his tools could be seen in the way he folded his sail at day's end. The trader has never forgotten that lesson. Taking hold of the long ash oars once again, he dips their smooth blades quietly into the river. The boat answers immediately. With each slow stroke, it glides forward almost effortlessly. The rhythm feels as natural as breathing. Pull, glide, pull, glide. The gentle splash of the oars soon becomes the only sound upon the water. Along the eastern shoreline, several wild apple trees have dropped their fruit into the tall grass below. A family of red deer wanders cautiously among them. A graceful doe lowers her head to nibble one of the fallen apples, while two curious fawns remain close beside her. Their ears twitch at every unfamiliar sound. The trader pauses his rowing for only a moment. The boat continues drifting silently with the current. None of the animals seem frightened. After years beside the river, they have learned that peaceful travelers rarely disturb the quiet balance of the forest. The deer lift their heads together. For a brief instant, both man and animals simply observe one another. Then, without alarm, they return to their evening meal. Trust, he thinks, often grows from gentle habits repeated over many seasons. Farther downstream, the river narrows slightly before passing between two low rocky hills covered with birch and rowan. The autumn leaves glow brilliantly beneath the lowering sun. Some trees still wear deep green. Others have turned brilliant gold. A few blaze with rich shades of crimson that seem almost to catch fire whenever sunlight touches them. Individual leaves drift slowly through the air before settling upon the river. The current gathers them together into quiet, floating ribbons of color. They travel without resistance. The trader watches them pass beneath the bow. Perhaps people are not so different. Each life follows its own winding course, sometimes crossing paths with others, sometimes traveling alone, yet always moving gently onward. Above the hills, several ravens circle lazily upon the cooling evening air. Their deep calls echo softly across the valley before fading into the surrounding forest. The trader has always admired ravens. Patient, observant, never hurried. Many old Norse stories speak of them with great respect. Yet watching them here, there is nothing mysterious about them. Only ordinary birds returning home before nightfall. The river continues bending gently southward. Soon a familiar landmark appears ahead. An enormous granite boulder rises beside the western bank, half covered with pale green moss and soft gray lichen. Its weathered surface bears countless scratches left by ancient glaciers long before any village stood nearby. The trader smiles quietly. As a young boy, he believed the stone had always existed. Now, after many years of travel, he almost thinks that may be true. Some things seem older than memory itself. He always knows he is nearing home when he passes the great stone. Nearby, a narrow stream joins the larger river, its crystal-clear water flowing over rounded pebbles with a cheerful murmur. He guides the boat closer for a moment, allowing the fresh current to wash gently around the hull. The meeting of the two waters creates delicate swirling patterns that shimmer beneath the golden evening light. Small trout gather where the currents meet, occasionally breaking the surface before vanishing once again into the clear depths. Nature wastes nothing. Every joining place becomes a place of new life. The trader reaches into one of the storage chests and removes a small bundle wrapped in clean linen. Inside rests a simple wooden toy horse carved several weeks earlier during a quiet evening beside another village. Its smooth surface has been polished with beeswax until it glows warmly in the fading light. Tomorrow he hopes to give it to his young granddaughter. She delights in every small carving he brings home. Not because they are perfect, but because his hands made them. That thought fills him with quiet happiness. Some gifts are measured not by their value, but by the love patiently carved into every detail. The river broadens once again. Far ahead, barely visible through the soft haze of evening, a faint ribbon of smoke rises above the distant forest. Home. Not yet close enough to see individual houses. Not yet close enough to hear familiar voices, but close enough for his heart to recognize. The trader rests for a moment, allowing the current to carry the boat gently forward. The cool autumn air brushes softly against his face. Somewhere nearby, the first evening robin begins its final song of the day. Another answers from deeper within the trees. The music is simple, gentle, unhurried, much like the river itself. As the sun slowly sinks toward the western horizon, the broad northern sky glows with colors too beautiful to name completely. Amber, copper, rose, soft violet. Each reflection stretches across the water before blending quietly into another. The trader watches in grateful silence. There have been many journeys throughout his life, many villages, many markets, many seasons carried upon these ancient rivers, yet the final miles leading home have always been his favorite, not because the adventure is ending, but because every peaceful return reminds him that the greatest journeys are never measured by the distance traveled. They are measured by the kindness shared, the friendships made, and the quiet moments that remain in the heart long after the river has carried the boat beyond the next gentle bend. Home at last in the river's gentle farewell. As the sun sinks lower behind the western hills, the northern sky is transformed into a quiet masterpiece of autumn color. Soft bands of amber melt into shades of rose and lavender, while the highest clouds glow with a delicate golden light before slowly fading into the deepening blue of evening. The broad river reflects every changing color so perfectly that it seems impossible to tell where the water ends and the heavens begin. The trader rows steadily onward. There is no urgency in his movements. Home has waited for him before. It will wait a little longer. The familiar rhythm of the oars carries him through the final stretch of the journey. Pull, glide, pull, glide. The gentle sound of water against the polished ash blades has accompanied him for so many years that it feels almost like the beating of his own heart. Ahead, the thin ribbon of smoke he noticed earlier grows clearer. Soon another appears. then another. Each rises from the stone chimney of a farmhouse preparing its evening meal. The comforting scent of burning birch wood drifts across the river, carried by the cool autumn breeze. Mixed with it comes the faint aroma of fresh bread baking in clay ovens and hearty stews simmering patiently over glowing hearths. The smells are wonderfully familiar. They speak of home long before home itself comes into view. As the river bends gently toward the west, the first rooftops finally appear beyond a stand of ancient oak trees. Simple timber houses, neatly thatched roofs, small vegetable gardens protected by low-woven fences, a weathered boathouse standing quietly beside the landing. Nothing grand, nothing extraordinary. Yet to the trader, no city in the world could appear more beautiful. He lowers the oars for a moment. The current carries the boat silently forward. Across the meadow beyond the riverbank, several sheep graze peacefully beneath the watchful eye of an old shepherd leaning comfortably upon his walking staff. Nearby, a pair of children runs barefoot through the tall grass, chasing one another as swallows dart gracefully overhead. Their laughter drifts softly across the evening air. The sound reaches the trader long before he can distinguish their faces. He smiles. Some sounds never change. A familiar dog standing near the landing suddenly lifts its head. Its ears perk forward. After only a heartbeat, its tail begins wagging with joyful certainty. The old brown collie recognizes the approaching boat even from this distance. With happy determination, it races along the shoreline, barking only once before running ahead toward the dock. The trader laughs quietly. No one welcomes a traveler quite like an old dog. His boat glides gently against the weathered oak posts of the landing. The wood answers with a soft, familiar creak. He reaches instinctively for the thick hemp mooring rope, wrapping it around the post with practiced hands that have tied the same knot thousands of times before. Even after so many journeys, the simple act of securing the boat always fills him with quiet satisfaction. Another voyage completed, another peaceful return. Before he has finished fastening the final rope, the cottage door opens. His daughter steps outside first, wiping her hands upon her linen apron after leaving supper upon the hearth. Behind her come two small grandchildren whose eager feet carry them across the grass far faster than their little legs seem capable of running. "Grandfather!" Their joyful voices echo across the quiet riverbank. The trader kneels carefully as they reach him. One wraps tiny arms around his neck. The other immediately notices the leather satchel hanging from his shoulder. "Did you bring another carving?" He smiles with gentle amusement. "I may have found room for one." From inside the satchel he removes the little wooden horse, polished carefully with beeswax during quiet evenings along the river. The younger child accepts it with both hands, turning it slowly beneath the fading sunlight. "It looks almost real." "Perhaps," the trader replies softly. "But I think real horses are still a little more handsome." The children laugh. Their laughter is light enough to send a nearby flock of sparrows fluttering briefly into the cool evening sky. His daughter embraces him warmly. "You've had another safe journey, thanks to calm rivers and kind people." She nods knowingly. The best companions anyone could ask for. Together they begin unloading the boat, not hurriedly. There will be time tomorrow for barrels and bundles. Tonight only the most delicate goods are carried indoors. The honey, the cloth, the carved bowls, the herbs gathered along the riverbanks. Everything else can rest until morning. The boat has earned its own quiet night after many faithful miles upon the water. As darkness slowly settles across the valley, candles begin glowing behind every window in the village. Their warm light flickers gently against the glass, creating little islands of golden comfort beneath the vast northern sky. Inside the cottage, supper waits upon the broad wooden table. A steaming pot of barley stew, fresh rye bread still warm from the oven, butter churned that very morning, roasted root vegetables seasoned with fragrant herbs from the garden, and for dessert, baked apples sweetened with forest honey. Simple food, honest food, food made even richer because it is shared. The trader removes his cloak and hangs it upon the familiar wooden peg beside the door. For the first time in many days, the gentle rocking of the river is replaced by the quiet stillness of home. He settles into his favorite chair beside the glowing hearth. The fire crackles softly. Its warm light dances across the timber walls where carved shelves hold little reminders of a lifetime spent upon the northern rivers. A smooth stone collected during his very first trading journey. An old bronze brooch that once belonged to his father. A tiny carved bird made years ago by his granddaughter's careful hands. Each object carries its own quiet story. Outside, the river continues flowing beneath the moonlit sky. It asks for nothing. It hurries no one. Tomorrow it will welcome new travelers, new merchants, new fishermen, new families making peaceful crossings from one shore to the other. Its journey will never truly end. The trader steps outside one final time before bed. The village has fallen silent. Only the gentle murmur of the river drifts through the cool autumn night. He looks toward the silver ribbon of water glowing beneath the stars. For a long moment, he simply stands and listens. This river has carried him through every season of his life. It has taught him patience during quiet mornings, courage beneath stormy skies, gratitude beside welcoming hearths, and the simple joy of earning an honest living one gentle mile at a time. At last, he smiles. Not because every journey has been easy, but because every journey has brought him safely home. And with that comforting thought, he quietly closes the cottage door behind him. The fire burns low. The family sleeps peacefully. Beyond the window, the ancient northern river continues its endless song beneath the stars, flowing gently through the night, just as it always has. And just as it always will. The end.